desire for a utopian ideal, Henri van Noordenburg constructs his own personal utopian environments through carving onto photographs of his own naked body. His coloured body stands out against the grayscale etched environment, adding back flora and fauna to the otherwise black and empty scenes. Noordenburg allows himself to become part of these otherwise unnatural surroundings through physically scratching the prints with a scalpel. His work regularly deals with themes around the experience of being a foreigner in strange and unfamiliar territories, both his etched and photographic nude landscapes and his earlier social documentary work. So Henri, the series Foreigner reaches for a utopian ideal through your own body being placed in constructed environments based on nature. How does your gendered body affect the notion of utopia, and how do you aim to convey this ideal? Through your own body, do you seek to reach a personal rather than universal utopia?
I'm seeking to find a utopia, and what that utopia is, I don't really know yet. I think it's a work in progress to find what does it actually mean, where is it going to. But yeah, it's definitely is a personal utopia, but also I think to find the utopia, you've got to go through utopia first. To find utopia, you have to go through dystopia first to find it, and I think that's what the work is doing.
I think the dystopia is definitely present with these sort of ominous clouds and crashing waves and these caves, and they're quite dark, and I think even your body is kind of sort of, all this dirt over you, and you can't even see your face very well.
Yeah, well, it's quite funny because when I took most of the photographs, they were taken before I started the process of carving into it, and I'm still using those ones. But whenever I've placed myself into a landscape, it was always either in this case it was raining. It was raining really heavily, and so it's kind of I suppose a negative environment that you place yourself in. Or other times I've covered myself with mud, so I've always placed myself in uncomfortable situations. The water is often very cold, and in a way that's a dystopia.
Yeah.
So to me it's that suffering aspect that I'm drawn to. At the same time, it's refreshing. Afterwards I feel so charged with energy, and I don't know if that's the cold water or if that's just the fact that you walk nude in nature or whatever it is. But I feel so charged with that energy that I find interesting, but I find it interesting that it's the kind of the negative, and it's still the negative in this work as well. So it's that suffering. At the same time, I feel that I can't really talk about suffering because I haven't suffered. Like everything in my life has been pretty positive. Like I've get along with my family really well, and I haven't really suffered as such. But I think the work is more coming from a sense of belonging, wanting to belong in terms of as a migrant, for different genders, wanting to have an equal world, and also feel like I need to do more for the world. I need to do more for humanity. I often feel that I don't do enough for humanity.
And so for you, that's how it goes beyond the personal to the universal?
Yeah.
In that sense that you have this desire for this utopia to go beyond
absolutely
your desire for this utopia.
Yeah. So at first, but I think it's important to classify your personal utopia first.
Yeah.
To then understand a overall utopia. I think it's this and be able to reflect on the different ideals of utopia as well. I mean, but without like trying to get into a religious or a cold feel or it's
and so like begins with the personal and the search for this utopia through yourself in these experiences. It's interesting.
The thing I find also interesting about the whole process of making it, I maybe actually the most utopian feel for the work is when I make it.
Yeah, really.
It's the process of
It's the
the
experience
lines. It's the carving into the paper. Every single line. Every
Do you find it meditative?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. And very often I play music by Arvo Pärt, an Estonian composer, and it's heavy. Sometimes very heavy classical music, but I like that. And often a glass of red wine helps me settle down into it as well.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so it's interesting how you sort of talked about how your own experiences translate into your work. Maybe you can talk about your own experiences of diaspora or being a foreigner.
It's the idea of being a foreigner, the idea of arriving in a new land, taking and it takes a while before you settle, before you connect with other people, before you understand the cultural differences and similarities of the new culture. And saying that again, I came from a Western culture and I landed in a Western culture. I didn't come from a non-Western culture, so that's definitely that difference would be much far greater than what I've gone through. But still, you need to. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you come from Melbourne and you move to Brisbane. You still have to start again. You still have to go through that process of finding new people, finding new work, and settling down. Of course, the advantage is that you speak the English language and you don't have a problem with Australian language. You don't have the problem of fitting in language-wise, communicating, which you do as a foreigner. But it is quite a different journey in that case.
And you were saying before about how you listen to music when you make this work. I know that your practice is strongly influenced by the canon of art history. Can you kind of just sort of talk about how, especially with the work Foreigner, how this was a big influence?
I suppose, actually, as a Dutchman, when I lived in the Netherlands, I wasn't really introduced to going to galleries. Apart from my parents have a painting in their house, which is a portrait of one of the 12 apostles. I think it's Paul. And the light is coming from one side, so it refers back to the Rembrandt lighting. And I only recognise that now I've been studying. And so I'm influenced by that. But I'm influenced also by Peter Bruegel because of his immense detail in the work, obsessional detail in his work. And it's Peter Bruegel, but it's also his son, one of his sons. I think it's the other Peter Bruegel. So it's Peter Bruegel the younger, as well as Peter Bruegel the elder. Not so much Jan Bruegel, but both Peter Bruegels. Just the immense detail of the work. And only recently have I looked more at the work of Peter Bruegel the younger, and I actually think that my work may be referencing more his work than, or closer related to it, and that's because of the use of foregrounds and backgrounds. I suppose the influence, I'm looking at Peter. The thing I like about Peter Bruegel the Elder is his use of Dutch scenes. Like you may look at a landscape and there's like hunters in the snow, for instance. There's in the background you see people ice skating, but you also see the mountains, like high mountains. You also see the hunters walking through. Now, when you look at the hunters, they do look Italian. They have the Italian clothing. Yet the architecture on the houses looks more from the Hanse period, so Germanic architecture. And I find that combination interesting because in Holland, of course, it's a flat country, so we don't have hills. Well, some hills. We don't have mountains. So what I find interesting about his work is the combination of his experience in Italy, and he combines it with a somewhat playful Dutch culture, like the ice skating. And I really